Welcome to Bespoke Unit. My name's Paul Anthony.
I'm Charles Philippe.
And today we're in the winter wonderland of Champagne, France. It's February here and we've been caught in a snowstorm, but that's not going to stop us with our all-access tour of Baron Albert.
Baron Albert is an interesting house founded in 1947. It's a family-run business, but offers, despite its small size, one of the widest ranges of cuvées that we've yet to see. Anything from non-vintage traditional blends to more complex vintage Blanc de Blanc.
So with that said, let's get started on this tour. Can't wait.
Yeah, I need to get it warm. Built in 1943, the cellars were completed in 1947. Where it had the capacity to store about 500,000 bottles. The depth of the cellars extends to about 10 meters this way and 30 meters this way. Dug into the original limestone and chalk soil. Because everything had to be done by hand, like such as the riddling, removing the stacking of the bottles, they started to find it quite complicated to carry on using this area.
Because this actually only had a capacity of about 500,000 bottles, and annually they can produce up to 430,000 bottles. So in 2010, they dug out a new facility that we're going to go and see a little bit later on, with a capacity of around 1.5 million bottles. Right now we're in the receiving area for the press. The grapes are brought through the door behind me, and then the crates are unloaded and put into initial sorting, and Charles will take it from here.
So they're delivered with crates, which are left in the machine behind me. These are pre-programmable, and what they do is that along a conveyor belt, they're then taken up a lift. And then they will be dropped into any one of these 1-4 vats, which are behind me, which are capable of pressing up to 8,000 kilograms of grapes. Out of these 8,000 kilograms, you'll get about 5,500 litres, which I've just been told. These are then split into 3 distinctive types of juice, which normally would be just 2. But here at Baron Albert, they're looking for that extra quality. The first one is the cuvée, which is the most well known to do a champagne. Part of that, the very middle part of that press, is used called the cœur de cuvée for their special éclatante cuvée, which is one of their more premium ranges. Then you have the taille, which is the final part of the juice that is pressed. This is slightly lesser quality and is only included in the champagne if it's a lesser year. This is then left in one of the reservoirs that are just behind me here.
Once the reservoirs are full, the juice is then taken by these pipes you'll see behind me to storage vats where the first fermentation takes place. Okay, so we'll move one step further down the process now. In the last room where the grapes are being pressed, that juice has been brought into this room and been stored in the vats behind me with roughly 1 million litres of capacity.
These steel vats, they will be used for about a week, maybe longer, for the alcoholic fermentation. Currently, because we're in February of 2018, there is the cuvée back that was the harvest back from September 2017. These vats behind us are used just for the first fermentation process, but the bigger vats over here are used for the assembly, where you use the different grapes and put them together in the perfect ratio to make the final wine for the second fermentation phase. So some of Baron Albert's wines are aged in oak casks. This is quite a special procedure which isn't done in every house. One of their cuvées, La Pimpante, concentrates on this, but they also use just a little bit in when doing the blend, which they add to each of their other wines just to give it something of that special kick. Each of the oak casks are made from French oak with a lifespan of about 10 years. They use a good balanced blend of old oak casks and new ones because the new ones create a very tannin composition, whereas the older ones can start to lose some of that character you want from a oak aged wine.
Okay, so it's quite a stark difference with what we saw earlier on between the cellar that was built back in 1943 to this new facility that was built in 2010.
This particular facility was built directly underneath the vat room, which was pretty much 20 meters underground. So here we are very much underground, giving us a consistent temperature and environment of around 12 degrees. With no temperature spikes, and it's a very dark environment as well, as champagne is quite sensitive to light.
As you can see here, we're a little bit more modern with how they're storing the bottles. So they have this new crate system, which helps with inventory, as well as speed and efficiency for getting the bottles in and out of the cellar here.
It's worth also adding that champagne, by law, a non-vintage champagne should be kept a minimum of 15 months in this room, whereas vintage champagne has to be a minimum of 36 months. Although Baron Albert respects that, they also often surpass it, going much further in a longer and more careful aging process.
Okay, so now we're here in the labelling and boxing department of Baron Albert, and Charles Philippe's going to detail some of the processes.
So it's quite interesting and very automated process. First of all, the bottles are then picked up by suction cups and they're placed on a conveyor belt. This conveyor belt then takes them to be cleaned and dried, given that they've been aged for anything from 15 months onwards. The bottles, once after having been cleaned, then the foil is placed on the top and wrapped round and properly folded. Then it's passed through a brand new labelling machine to then put the sticker which goes on, well, I put the front label, the back label, a medallion which may show the year or an award, as well as a final sticker that goes around the neck and holds the foil in place. The bottles are then moved into another machine which will then simultaneously fold a cardboard box for 6 bottles or 12, which are then fed into another machine where these bottles are then put into the box, which goes into another machine, which then actually weighs the whole contents to make sure everything is there, which is very precise, to make sure every sticker is there. And it goes into another machine, which will then tape up the box and print across the side its contents.
Unfortunately, right now, this bottling process is not happening as they're actually installing the new main labelling machine. However, Charles Philippe's going to try and come back relatively soon when this happens. We're either going to edit into this video, or there'll be a separate video detailing this relatively less thought of process, but fascinating all the same, as it all happens in this very small area. But it's pretty critical to know, you know, what champagne you're actually going to be drinking. So after all that grueling work, this is what you're left with: a fully bottled, ready to drink bottle of Baron Albert champagne.
And well, we're going to turn off the camera for a bit and actually enjoy these. So, santé.
See you soon.
Cheers.
So we just had the great pleasure of tasting 5 of the different cuvées on offer here by Baron Albert. It was most enjoyable, as I'm sure you guys may be aware.
The cameraman is designated driver.
But Charles going to go a little bit into very high level what these different cuvées are. As always, there'll be links below to our champagne guide. And Charles, take it away.
Okay, well, first thing a lot of people may not know about Baron Albert is that they have not 1 but 2 awards for their care for the environment. They have the Haute Valeur Environnementale and the viticulture durable, wow, too many glasses, badges, which you can learn about in the Universals review, which is in a link below.
This bottle right here, the entry-level standard cuvée.
We have different blends, lots of different cuvées. This one is La Préférence, which is a vintage blend of, I'm trying to remember.
We'll provide links below to all of the cuvées that are available currently at Baron Albert.
Yeah, exactly. So this is Chardonnay, mainly Chardonnay, and then we have two Blanc de Blanc, which means 100% Chardonnay. This one here is a vintage, and this one here was aged in oak barrels. And finally, this one, which is a rosé, which was macerated, meaning that the grapes were pressed ever so slightly longer to change the color and add a red fruit flavor.
So, as always, we hope you've enjoyed this video. We've had a fantastic time at Baron Albert here, and very grateful for all the behind the scenes access and time that they've given us today.
Absolutely.
As always, please like, subscribe to this video and our channel. As always, please leave any comments or questions you have below. Also, see the link below to Charles Philippe's most detailed champagne guide on the web. I'm going to throw it out there. Mm-hmm. And on that note, I think we should cheers and say au revoir.
Au revoir and cheers.